welcome to Simpler Bible, a daily journey to biblical understanding. Episode 190, still in Ezekiel 8 and 9. Look, these are some beautiful chapters. I'm going to go ahead and say it. These are some of my favorites again. And I was joking with Colin that if we put together a video of all the ones that are my favorites, they would all be my favorites, I suppose. But I love this text. And so, a man clothed in linen, Ezekiel 8 and 9. And it says this. Pay attention to the dates. I think the dates are very important. I think they're very important. I guess you don't have to pay attention to them. But look at verse 1. In the 6th year, in the 6th month, on the 5th day of the month. So we'll do this again. So this is the 5th day of the month, in the 6th month, in the 6th year. So this is 6th year of exile. Jeremiah's letter, Jeremiah 29, happened about a year and a half before this to kind of give you some timeline, okay? This is the 6th year. This is about the time that King Zedekiah is beginning to withdraw a little bit from King Nebuchadnezzar. And so Jerusalem is still around. Jerusalem's going to be around for another just shy of 5 years, about 4 years and 11 months before Jerusalem's destroyed, if you're interested in the timeline. So in the 6th year, in the 6th month, on the 5th day of the month, as I sat in my house with the elders of Judah sitting before me, the hand of the Lord fell upon me there. And I looked, and behold, a form that had the appearance of a man below. What appeared to be his waist was fire, and above his waist was something like the appearance of brightness, like gleaming metal. So very similar to what we saw back in chapter 1. He put out the form of a hand, and he took me by a lock of my hair, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and heaven, and brought me in visions of God to Jerusalem, to the entrance of the gateway in the inner court. So remember, where is Ezekiel? He's in Babylon, and he's having this vision, and he sees in this vision God, and God grabs him by his hair. This is all a vision, and takes him over to Jerusalem and drops him down in the entrance of the gateway of the inner court of the temple. So Ezekiel is seeing this vision in the temple. Now, who's in Jerusalem? Jeremiah. And who's he rebuking? He's rebuking the priests and the prophets. Do you remember how often in the book of Jeremiah specifically rebukes the priests and the prophets who are prophesying lies in the name of the Lord? So Ezekiel is now being given by the Holy Spirit a vision of what's actually taking place in Jerusalem. Jeremiah is there firsthand seeing all of it, okay? And he says, the Spirit lifted, golly, I love this. I hope that right now, in your mind, as I keep reminding you about Ezekiel and Jeremiah, I hope that you're building a picture, a world in your head where you can kind of see the young prophet Ezekiel in Babylon and the old prophet Jeremiah in Jerusalem, and how God is giving like Ezekiel these visions, and he's in a vision in Jerusalem, seeing the wickedness that's going on there, seeing the rebellion there. Jeremiah is there seeing it in person. He doesn't need to have a vision. It's right in front of him happening. And like, I hope that there's little fireworks going off in your brain as you're able to put these two books together and see how they unfold. I love this stuff. My goodness, I love this stuff. So it says this. He brought me, verse 3 again. Isn't that great? We're like 3 or 4 minutes in and we've only made it through 3 verses. That's just how it goes sometimes. He brought me to the entrance of the gateway of the inner court that faces north, and there was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provokes to jealousy. So there's an idol in the temple of the Lord. Behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, like the vision that I saw in the valley. And he said to me, Son of man, lift up your eyes now towards the north. So I lifted my eyes up towards the north, and behold, the north of the altar gate in the entrance was this image of jealousy. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they are doing, the great abominations that the house of Israel are committing here to drive me far from my sanctuary? But you will still see even worse abominations than this. So he brought me to the entrance of the court, and when I looked, behold, there was a hole in the wall. So he sees this vision, and he's able to look through this hole in the wall, look in to see what the priests are doing. And he said, Son of man, dig further into the wall. So I dug into the wall, and there was an entrance. And he said, go in and see the wicked things that they are committing there. So I went in and I saw, and there engraved on the wall all around every form of creeping things and loathsome beasts and the idols of the house of Israel. So he's looking into the temple, and carved on the walls and all this, the temple of the Lord is now decorated with idols and these false things. And before them stood 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel, with Jazaniah the son of Shaphan standing among them. Each had his censer in his hand, and the smoke of the cloud went up. So they're offering, he's seeing actual people that are priests in the house of the Lord, and they're burning incense to these idols. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? What the elders of the house of Israel are doing in the dark, each in his own room of pictures, for they say, the Lord does not see us, the Lord has forsaken the land. Now, the Lord has forsaken the land, But they're doing these deeds in darkness, saying, God doesn't see us. It doesn't matter anymore. And so these priests and prophets are prophesying lies. They're burning incense to these false gods in the temple. Jeremiah is aware of this. They're doing these deeds in darkness, which is an interesting thing that appears, I don't know, a dozen or so times in the Bible where people do sinful and shameful things in darkness because they don't want to be caught. It reminds me also a little bit of John chapter 3, where Jesus says that the people who do their deeds in darkness don't come into the light because they don't want their deeds exposed. And so the elders of the house of Israel are doing these things, and they're going, doesn't matter. The Lord doesn't care. He's forsaken us. We can do whatever we want to. He said, you'll see even worse stuff than this. Then he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the house of the Lord, and behold, there were women weeping for Tammuz. These are women who are weeping for these idols and these false gods. And he said, have you seen this, O son of man? Look, he's saying all these things. He says, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Whenever he's showing them a vision, he's like, look, do you see what's happening here? He goes, you'll see even worse things than these. And he brought me to the inner court of the house of the Lord. And behold, at the entrance of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were 25 men with their backs to the temple of the Lord and their faces towards the east. And they were worshiping the sun in the east. And so he goes, man, they've rejected me. They're in the temple of the Lord. They have their back to the temple, and now they're worshiping the sun. And he said, have you seen this, O son of man? Is it too light a thing for the house of Judah to commit the abominations that they commit here, that they would fill the land with violence, that they would provoke me even further to anger? Behold, they are putting the branch to the nose. Therefore I will act in wrath. My eyes will not spare, nor will I have pity. And though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, I will not hear them. Keep rolling into chapter 9. Then he cried in my ears with a loud voice. Okay, so these people have rejected me. They've turned far from me. So even if they were to cry out to me with a loud voice, I wouldn't hear him. And Ezekiel says, and then God cried out to me with a loud voice. But Ezekiel, of course, hears God. And he says, then he cried out in my ears with a loud voice, saying, bring near the executioners of the city, each with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came. Now remember, Ezekiel is by the Chebar Canal, by the river in Babylon, and he's having this vision, and he in spirit is in Jerusalem seeing all of these things unfold. And in Jerusalem, in this vision, he's seeing God say, bring the executioners, and 6 men show up to bring execution to these wicked people in Jerusalem. And he says, 6 men came from the direction of the upper gate, which faces north, each with his weapon of slaughter in his hand. And with them was a man clothed in linen with a writing case at his waist. And they went in and stood beside the bronze altar. So you've got 6 warriors, right, with their 6 weapons of death to slaughter the inhabitants. And you got a guy with a writing case hanging from his waist. He's dressed in linen. He's got a writing case and a piece of chalk. So you've got these 6 warriors with these 6 weapons. And I don't know what you picture in your head, but I picture these stout warriors, like with scars. In every movie, there's got to be one guy that's got the scar that goes through his forehead, down through his eye, down through his cheek, and he's like, and these warriors. And then you've got the little mousy guy in the linen, like totally would have been me, like, hey, let's go to war, right? And so I'm like, I like to write, so you got the guy with the writing case and the pencil, like you got that guy, but that guy's going to be an important guy in a minute. So listen, so there was a man clothed in linen with a writing case at his waist, and they went and they stood beside the bronze altar in the temple of the Lord in the outer court. Now behold, the glory of the God of Israel had gone up from the cherubim on which it rested to the threshold of the house. Now this is important. Bear with me on this. You have the temple of the Lord. It's been a while since we've talked about this. And there's an outer court that's roughly 60 feet by 30 feet. And then there's the inner court, the Holy of Holies, which is 30 feet by 30 feet. And there's the Ark of the Covenant is there. And under the Ark of the Covenant is underneath, remember when Solomon built this, 2 15-foot tall cherubim made of wood covered in gold, each with 2 15-foot wingspans. And they're sitting over the Ark of the Covenant, and the Ark of the Covenant represents the presence of God. And what does this say? The glory of God, this is verse 3 of chapter 9, the glory of God that was sitting over the Ark of the Covenant now moves out, and it goes to the threshold of the house. So it moves out of the Holy of Holies, through the common court, the outer court, and it goes to the door of the temple. Now, this is important because what you're going to see through chapters 9 and 10 is the glory of God goes further and further from the Holy of Holies. The glory of God is departing. This might make us think of Ichabod. And that would be all the way back in 1 Samuel chapter 3, I think, when Eli's sons die in battle and the Ark of the Covenant is destroyed. And Eli's daughter-in-law has a son, and she names him Ichabod because the glory of God had departed. This is very interesting. Pay close attention in the book of Ezekiel, especially chapters 9 and 10, of the glory of God departing from the Holy of Holies, leaving the temple, and making his way out. I'll point it out to you as we go, okay? So, verse 3, now the glory of God of Israel had gone up from the cherubim on which it rested to the threshold of the house. The cherubim on which it rested are the cherubim on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. That was the mercy seat. And God called to the man clothed in linen who had the writing case at his waist and said, pass through the city, through Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of all the men who groan over the abominations that are committed in it. So go through, he says, Jerusalem, and put a mark on the forehead of anyone who is grief-stricken over the sin of these people. And this is incredibly interesting. We see this same imagery, or similar imagery, I want to say, repeated in Revelation 9 and Revelation 14. We don't think about this. You have so many people talk about, oh, I'm afraid of getting the mark of the beast. No one seems to want to talk about the fact that Revelation speaks about the people who belong to God are marked on their forehead by God as people who belong to God. And where else do we see that imagery from Revelation, where the people of God are marked on their forehead with the name of God, marked with the sign of God so that they're not destroyed? Right here in Ezekiel chapter 9. So he says to the man with the linen writing case with a piece of chalk, go through all of my land and put a mark on anyone who grieves over the sin of the people. And then he says, and then the Lord said to him, and then the Lord said to the others, verse 5, pass through the city behind him and strike. Your eye shall not spare, and you shall show no pity. Kill old men outright, young men and maidens, little children and women, but touch no one on whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. So they began with the elders who are at the house of the Lord. So he has these 6 warriors and the one guy with the writing case. He says to the guy with the writing case, go and find all the people who are grief-stricken over the sin. Find the people with penitent hearts and mark them for me. And then he says to the 6, go kill everybody else. Go kill everyone who doesn't have the mark on their forehead. This should make us think of so many things. It should make us think of Revelation. It should make us think of the judgment of God and the tribulation of God and how the tribulation does not touch the ones who have the mark of God on them. It should also make us think, I just lost it, it'll come back to me. He's got these 6 people going, oh yeah, it should make us think of what we talked about 2 days ago, or yesterday rather, with take a third of the people and burn them in the city, or a third of your hair. Remember, Ezekiel shaved his head. Take a third of the hair, burn it in the city. Take a third of the hair, chase it with the sword. Take a third of the hair and cast it to the winds. But fold up a little bit. Take a little portion of that hair and roll it into the garment. The hair rolled into the garment, the hair that's protected, are these that are marked by God, that are grief-stricken over their sin. The rest are rebellious. The rest have hard heads, and they're going to be destroyed. And then the other thing that it should make us think of is in 1 Peter 4, 17 through 18. I'll talk more about this in the blog. Peter says that the judgment of God is going to begin with his house, with his people. If the judgment of God begins in his house, how wretched will it be for those who don't know God? And where does he say? Where does he say to start here? Start in my sanctuary, start among my people, and then move out from there. So he said to them, defile the house, fill the courts with the slain, go out. And they went out and they struck the city. And while they were striking, remember, Ezekiel is not in Jerusalem physically. He's in Jerusalem in a vision. And he says, while they were striking and I was left alone, I fell up on my face and said, Lord God, will you destroy all the remnant of Israel in the outpouring of your wrath on Jerusalem? So he's seeing the destruction that's about to befall Jerusalem. He's like, will you really destroy them all? Will you really do this all? And he said to me, the guilt of the house of Israel of Judah is exceedingly great. The land is full of bloodshed and the city is full of injustice. For they say, the Lord has forsaken the land. The Lord doesn't see us anymore. As for me, my eye will not spare, nor will I have pity, which is like the 10th time he's said that in these few chapters of Ezekiel. And behold, the man clothed in linen with the writing case at his waist came back and said, I have done what you have commanded me to do. I've marked off everybody. And then the people the other 6, the warriors, went out and brought judgment. And my goodness, just incredible text. Just, I don't know. I love this. I do. It's dark. It is dark. I'm a little dark. But like, look at the mercy of God. And have we not seen this exampled for us throughout the whole Bible? That before God brings judgment, what does he do? He marks the people for him. Let's make a note of that. Look, Genesis chapter 18 and 19. Abraham, God says, I'm going to go destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham goes, you're not going to destroy the righteous or the wicked, will you? Certainly the judge of all the earth will do what is just. What did God do? He removed righteous Lot before he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. God always does that. He always removes the righteous or marks the righteous before he destroys the wicked. And so there's a picture here, there's a theme here that we see that yes, God brings judgment on the earth, but what does he do? He protects those who belong to him. He marks them, he seals them, he preserves them, he brings them out. And I love it. And there are so many end times implications in this 2 chapters here that it just causes my mind to be abuzz with excitement. But that is all we have for you today. Tomorrow we'll be in Ezekiel 10 and 11. We'll pick up where we left off right here. Have a good one. Thank you so much for journeying with us today at Simpler Bible through another section of Scripture where we come to know and understand God a little bit better. Look, if you're brand new to Simpler Bible, we have all sorts of resources available for you. Go to our website, simplerbible.com, and there you can find these videos, you can find our podcast, you can find links to our social media, and you can even find a blog post with additional scriptures if you want to go into a little bit more study than we had time to cover in this podcast and video today. We hope that this tool will be exactly that for you, a tool. Not something that replaces your daily walk with God, but something that enhances your daily walk with God and helps you to know and enjoy Him more. Thank you so much for being part of this, and we'll see you again tomorrow.